Good morning. Good morning. We are here on this April 29th of 2019. There's my Abby Jo girl coming on with us from Colorado. Good morning, beautiful. You're my favorite. Hi, Joni. And Deborah. I don't know why I didn't have you stay all night, Deborah. You should be here at the table with us. We're going to try to do a Zoom today. We'll get a hold of you. Hi, Joni. Melissa, did you hear we're going to try to do a Zoom today? We are the day after the big retreat. Oh, Andrea, it's good to see you. I was wondering how things went with the doctor. So send me a text and let me know how you're feeling. Good morning. And there's Rhonda. But anyway, it's the day after our weekend retreat, our Dream Big retreat. And I don't mean to be dramatic, but I feel dramatic about it. Exceeded my wildest dreams. Day 119.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My wildest dreams. Words just can't even describe what happens on these weekends when we get out of the way and we let God. So anyway, I think we're all kind of rubbing the sleep out of our eyes a little bit this morning and taking a deep breath and saying, Lord, refresh us. And then, after a weekend of us girls coming together and discussing life, all the things we go through, life's hard. Life's not easy. And relationships seems to be the hardest part of all when it comes to this old world. And I get to read about Abimelech. And I can remember the years of reading this thinking, oh my word. But I got a different message this morning. Everything that happened to Abimelech is because he killed his brothers and sisters. He killed the 70. He was not loyal. And today the message for me was loyalty. Now praise God, Jesus came and we don't have to suffer the same kind of things that Abimelech suffered for his lack of loyalty. But the thing is, this shows us our Father's heart. And all of us have been wronged. All of us have had people who's left us. All of us have had people who has abandoned us. We haven't probably, I don't know of anybody in my circle anyway, who has had a brother kill 70 brothers before. And I believe that that's a true story. I believe that actually happened. But I've had people in my circle where a son has come against a mother, a brother has come against a brother. And oh my gosh, it's one thing when it happens in our family, our family. We're not loyal to our family. This is a family situation with Abimelech. It's one thing when it's our family. I think it's worse when it's our family. That's just my way of thinking. I'm not sure that's God's heart. I'll have to think about that, pray about that. Because you guys just get this spur of the moment. I kind of was in a hurry this morning. It's coming up off of our retreat. I got lots of text messages and lots of messages and a lot of activity about the weekend. And I answered a phone call this morning. It ran me a little bit late. So it's not that I just studied on this morning. I'm here just to encourage you to read for yourself. Remember, it's not about me. But so I don't know if it's my Father's heart about, is it worse when family members aren't loyal to family members? But friendships, we all know dozens of people who have had somebody turn on them and not remain faithful, not remain loyal. I mean, who is it that God has placed in your life? And I believe today's reading, including the New Testament reading, reiterates to us that God's heart is for us to remain loyal to those he's placed in our life. And again, God's definition of loyalty isn't necessarily what the word would tell you. We have to have healthy boundaries. There comes a time when no matter how close you are, no matter what the bloodline is, that you draw a line in the sand and say, do not cross over this again. You will not speak to me that way. You will not treat me that way. But even when you do that, you can remain loyal. I think loyalty is a heart issue. It's a heart issue. Thank you, Deborah, for letting me know. I'd had somebody before tell me I sat too far away from the camera. So pulling you closer. Can you hear me better, Deborah? Deborah said she can hardly hear me. So loyalty is a heart issue. You don't even have to maintain relationship to maintain loyalty. Loyalty is how are we towards that person. And I've had people that's come against me. I've had people that's left me, and to this day, I'm open. I love them. I've never stopped loving them. And this isn't about me, and I'm not capable of this on my own. I mean, 15 years ago, I'd just soon slap them as have anything to do with them. That's where I was, but that's not where God will lead you at all. And God will teach you what loyalty means, and he'll teach you through stories like today. And I have trouble saying his name. Abimelech was not loyal at all. And he suffered the consequences. Even when it looked as though he was having some victory. See, how many times does that happen? God brings you somebody, it's a divine connection, and then they choose to go their way. They choose to do whatever, and then you're set back wondering, what in the world happened? Did I say something? Did I do something? You're looking, it looks like, oh, wow, they're prospering. Everything's going good. I mean, for a while, he's winning the battles. But in the end, God's will be done. And Abimelech was killed. And he was technically killed by his own soldiers. But of all things, back in the day when there was a whole different thought process about women, he told them, don't let a woman kill me. You kill me. Use the sword and kill me. I don't want it to be said that I was killed by a woman. So what I'm saying is, when he got his, he got his. God's heart, God doesn't ever change. He's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And I believe in today's message, he's telling us that when we know that it was a God connection, we're to remain loyal in our hearts. And I can't emphasize enough, that doesn't always mean that we stay in relationship. We can remain loyal and not necessarily have to maintain relationship. But anyway, that's what I got this morning, and I thought that was awesome, coming off of a weekend of 30 or 40 girls together, that we all said it was a divine connection for us all to be together this weekend. And so now our job is to remain loyal to one another. We can do that. And then in the New Testament, Luke chapter 24, in Luke chapter 24, I found it so interesting today that Jesus says, okay, so Jesus has been crucified. He's risen from the dead. The tomb is empty, but the disciples are trying to find their way. What did the disciples do when Jesus was crucified? They left. They scattered. They didn't stay loyal. They were heartbroken. They believed the superficial things of, oh, he's dead, even though his own words had told them that in 3 days I'll rise again. It was written. They studied the prophecies of Isaiah and Jeremiah. They knew these things. They had head knowledge of these things, that when the Messiah comes, that he would be crucified and that he would rise again. And yet they doubted. And yet they scattered themselves. And so they're walking along and they're talking, and Jesus comes alongside of them, and they don't even recognize him. See, I think that shows their mindset. Had they remained loyal, had they remained alert, had they believed what he said, they would know that at any point in time they might see him. But they didn't. He was dead. He was gone. Now, I want you to hear how they described it. So I'll start in verse 17. He asked them, "What are you discussing so intently as you walk along?" Now, this is Jesus' words. They stopped short, sadness written across their faces. Then one of them replied, "You must be the only person in Jerusalem who hasn't heard about all the things that's happened here in the last few days." "What things?" Jesus asked. I just love this story. "The things that happened to Jesus, the man. There's my first clue. The man from Nazareth," they said. And then they proceed to tell him who this man was. Well, he was a prophet who did powerful miracles. And he was a mighty teacher in the eyes of God and all the people. Not once did they say he was the Messiah. Not once did they describe him as the Son of God. He was a man. He was a teacher. He was a prophet. But our leading priests and other religious leaders handed him over to be condemned to death, and they crucified him. We had hoped he was the Messiah. We had hoped he was the Messiah who had come to rescue Israel. This all happened 3 days ago. Then some of the women from our group of his followers were at his tomb early this morning. They came back with an amazing report. They said his body was missing. They'd seen angels who had told them that Jesus is alive. Some of our men ran out to see, and sure enough, his body was gone, just as the women had said. And then Jesus said to them, "You foolish people, you find it so hard to believe all that the prophets wrote in the scriptures." And you know what? That's us. We find it so hard to believe. So hard to believe. Wasn't it clearly predicted that the Messiah would have to suffer all these things before entering his glory? And see, I've read the book. I've read all of Luke, especially John, from chapters 14 through 16. He tells them what's getting ready to happen to him. He forewarned them. How many times has God spoken to us and told us what we need to hear? And yet when it happens to us, we don't believe. We don't believe. We're full of doubt. We can't even see it in front of our face. That is all of us. All of us. I want to continue on because the answer is in here. Then Jesus took them through the writings of Moses and all the prophets, explaining from all the scriptures the things concerning himself. This isn't the first time he's done this. By this time, they were nearing the town and the end of their journey, and Jesus acted as if he was going to go on. But they begged him, "Stay the night with us since it's getting late." So he went home with them. And as they sat down to eat, he took the bread and blessed it. Then he broke it all and gave it to them. Suddenly, their eyes were opened, and they recognized him. And at that moment, he disappeared. They said to each other, "Didn't our hearts burn within us as he talked with us on the road and explained the scriptures to us?" And when the hour they were on their way back to Jerusalem, there they found the 11 disciples and the others who had gathered with them, who said, "The Lord is really risen. He appeared to Peter." Then the two from Emmaus told their story of how Jesus had appeared to them as they were walking along the road, and how they had recognized him. And as he was breaking the bread, it was familiar to them, the breaking of the bread. And just as they were telling about it, Jesus himself was suddenly standing there among them. "Peace be with you," he said. But the whole group was startled and frightened, thinking they were seeing a ghost. "Why are you frightened?" he asked. "Why are your hearts filled with doubts. Look at my hands. Look at my feet. You can see that it's really me. Touch me and make sure that I'm not a ghost, because ghosts don't have bodies as you see that I do. As he spoke, he showed them his hands and his feet. Still, they stood there in disbelief. The mountain that rises up in front of us, stopping us from completing all God wants us to complete, is a mountain of disbelief. We have to speak to that mountain on a regular basis to leave. No matter where we are, no matter how mature we are on this walk, unbelief raises its ugly head. Still, they stood there in disbelief, filled with joy and wonder. Then he asked them, do you have anything here to eat? They gave him a piece of broiled fish, and he ate it as they watched. Then he said, when I was with you before, I told you that everything written about me in the law of Moses and the prophets and in the Psalms must be fulfilled. He had already told them that this moment would come. Then he opened their minds. Here's our answer. Here is our answer, I believe. Then he, being Jesus, opened their minds. When we get stuck, when we reach that wall and we get stuck and we just can't get past it, we have to ask him to do it for us. So many times we're in the works mentality that if I just pray enough, if I just read enough, if I just serve enough, if I just work hard enough, okay, that didn't work, I'll try this. That didn't work, I'll try this. That didn't work, I'll try this. Instead of just submitting ourselves and saying, Lord, what is this in me? Take it from me. Get my unbelief out of the way. He opens our minds. We have not because we ask not. The whole emphasis here is what he did. They were steeped in unbelief, and he opened their minds. See, that's the power of how we believe versus how other religions teach and believe, is that first of all, we have a living God. A living God. We don't worship a grave. It's a living God. And a living God that will do what we ask him to do and what we invite him in to do. That's why it's so important that we pray and we listen. You know, we may even have to pray and say, Lord, I don't know what's wrong. Show me why I'm trying to read these scriptures. What is it? Why is it that this story about Abimelech is so hard, Lord? What is it in me? Teach me, show me, take it away from me, what's blocking me. And he may come back at you, and he's done this with me many times, and said, it's your doubt. Elizabeth, you're doubting. Elizabeth, you're not believing. You're not believing. So I just, so encouraging. It's so encouraging that he does what we can't do. If we'll submit, we have to submit to him. Make it not about me. It's not what I can't do enough. I can't. I got to lay it all down. Father, I give it all to you. All to you. I think we kind of talked about that this morning a little bit. We submit. I give it all to you. And then again, the stories of the loyalty. You know, there's blessings for us when we remain loyal. We first and foremost have to remain loyal to him. And then he would have us. We got a noise going on. I think it's upstairs. And then he would have us remain loyal to those that he's placed around us. And when we're not sure, is this a person you've sent me, Lord, or is this just somebody I gravitated to? He'll reveal that to us as well. Anyway, I'll finish with the Proverbs. The house of the wicked will be destroyed, but the tent of the godly will flourish. There is a path before each person that seems right, but it ends in death. We're always given a choice. Always given a choice. He says, I set before you this day life and death, blessings and curses. This day choose life. Love you guys. Have a magnificent Monday.
Good.